And we're rolling and we're rolling and we're Josh Brolin. Yeah, I'm sick of this shit. This is a SUPcast episode. I don't even know what the fuck. And we are in the new location, which is my new apartment that I got with my partner, Allie, who you know, or do you know? I don't know if you know. But this is the introduction to the episode with Rob Bates. Rob Bates is a guy who was in the band Downtown Brown for 5 years. He joined in 2005, and he played bass and drove us around when I was at my drunkest and stupidest. And there was a bunch of drunk idiots in the band as well. And we all were being very dumb and very drunk. And we recollect some of these experiences on this episode. And the other thing too, this is what I'm starting to notice about the podcast thing is I don't have my mic. I don't have it on a fucking mic stand. And it feels so freeing because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have my mic on a mic stand when I have a guitar, you know, and when I need it to be stationary, right? But like, what if I want to emote with my hands and get up in this shit? And every other, YouTube / internet / podcast person has always got their mic on some fancy fucking stand, and I'm just kind of sick of it. And I'm thinking when we do the podcast in the van, I might just do this. Because what I'm noticing is when we're doing these podcasts in the van with more people, they just pass the mic around. And, I can automate this shit and make it sound pretty good using the Logic Pro. But, yeah, check out the digs. This is my new office area. And we got in the back, we have posters. And we have memorabilia from my life. We have an HR poster when we did the tour with HR. We have a Downtown Brown Christmas poster. We have Prince. We have Body Rock. We have the vinyl to the movie soundtrack of the 1985 cult classic Body Rock starring Lorenzo Lamas. And gosh darn it, it's right there. It's right there on display. See? On display. And these are the new digs. We're in Long Beach, California. You got Zappa right here. Yeah, Zappa, the dude. He's the GOAT. He is arguably one of the goats. Yeah, so we got goats. We're surrounded by goats, man. We got Prince, who is funk, rock, pop, genius, goat. I just hit the camera, I don't know what to say. This is an intro to the podcast. And yeah, it's weird. I'm becoming acclimated to living with just one person, and it's the person I'm dating. And we're actually having a pretty decent time. And this chair creaks a lot. I don't know if you can hear the chair creaking. Chair is creaking. It's really obnoxious. But you know what's not obnoxious is having to tighten the mic thing every 5 seconds. That's fucking obnoxious. Because right now I'm just holding it, and it's like, near, far, wherever you are. And I can swivel. And I don't have to keep the mic in the same spot. It's very nice. But what I am finding is this cord right here on these headphones is getting really stupid. But yeah, we're in Long Beach, and we live in a house. We're in this historic district. It's called Wilmore City, and Wilmore City has a very high crime rate. There's actually a couple shootings that occurred within 2 days of us moving in here, which was kind of like, oh, hey. There goes the neighborhood. So, it's funny because I remember when I was in middle school and the Snoop Dogg album came out and we didn't know what they were talking about. And I talked to Norwood on the podcast about this, where it's just like, we thought it was naughty, but it was trivial to us though, because in growing up in the suburbs of Detroit, like the ultra fucking white suburbs, it was, we weren't surrounded by poverty. We weren't surrounded by any danger. So listening to this music was like this trivial kind of entertainment experience. You didn't really know that it seemed cartoony, and you didn't really know that what these human beings were talking about in the songs was actually fucking real. But now it's like we live across the street from a park, and fucking, I rolled up here with the van and I'm trying to find a place to park, and it's like there's cops fucking everywhere. Someone got shot in the park. Someone got fucking robbed, like a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old got robbed and shot 2 blocks away from our door. So we're surrounded by poverty, and this is, and we're, like Allie's a waitress and I'm a musician / wannabe podcast guy. So yeah, we're poor, we're surrounded by poverty, and we're surrounded by crime, and it's disparate, and it's fucking real. And so it's just funny to me because when I was a little kid growing up in the suburbs, I'm just like, like listening to Snoop Dogg. Like, but this shit's like everything Snoop Dogg was singing about is real. Like, people are fucking getting killed on the streets in Long Beach, and it's a fucking thing. And yeah, it's real. It was real in Toledo, Ohio, and it was real in Southwest Detroit too. But it wasn't on my fucking doorstep. Like, it's literally, the park is like, I walk out of here and the park is right there. And there's someone got shot 2 days ago. So, yeah. So that's what's going on in Long Beach, California. And one of the kind of funny things is we live in Wilmore City is this historic district of Long Beach, and there's all of these houses, and the houses are pretty big. So pretty much they could just all got bought up by companies, land owning type companies, and so. According to the internet, 90% of the people that live in this area of the city are all renters. So we're all poor and we're all renting, and we're pretty much giving money to people that own these properties. And that's a thing. And so, yeah, we live in a house, but it's sectioned off into, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 units in this house. We're the basement unit of a 6-unit home. And I just think it's kind of funny because there's I believe it's a mother and son that live right above our bed, and every morning at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. I usually get up early anyway because I've been doing this where I get up kind of early because I'm trying to exercise and be diligent about that, and I go to bed early, so I'm on old man time. I go to bed like around 10:30, and I wake up at fucking 6:30 because I'm old, and I'm doing that thing. But yeah, every morning since we moved in, I wake up. And the dude upstairs, who I believe is the son of the lady that lives upstairs, and he has a kid too. So, but I wake up to him playing The Trooper by Iron Maiden at 6:30 in the morning loudly on the Alexa, and you can hear it through the floorboards. And so every morning, and he does it like 3 times in a row, and he's done it every morning since we moved in here. So every morning I wake up and hear, and it's like, that's my alarm clock. My alarm clock I don't set. It is literally determined by another human being, but it's another human being that likes Iron Maiden that will listen to The Trooper like multiple times in a row at 6:30 every morning. And yeah, that is how I've been waking up lately. So so this is the new digs, dude. New digs. It's people at night are getting shot, and then during the day they're walking their dogs and exercising in the park. And it's something else. We're here. We're in Long Beach. We're in Wilmore City, and it feels so good just to hold this like a fucking microphone. I'm just talking into it, like, and I can move. I have freedom of movement. We got the autofocus working on the cam. Come on, work autofocus. Yeah. So we're doing this thing. We're making content, and I have my own space now. The last place that we lived, like I said to some of the exclusive Patreon people, shouts out to the Patreon supporters. There's 11 of you. I will name you at the end of the video. Shouts out to the Patreon people. But as I explained to them in my secret little video, and if you want to get secret little videos, if you want me to be like extremely candid, like even more candid than I am on the podcast, you can support the Patreon, patreon.com/NeilP. That's me. My name's NeilP. And this is the podcast SUPcast, which this is episode 22, I believe. And we got Rob Bates. We got Harry Bob. But what I was saying I was being very candid, is Allie and I, for the last year plus, we were living in the common area, a living room of a house with about 7 or 8 other people. And when you live in a common area, it's kind of hard to sleep because even though we had our privacy, people didn't really come in the living room. It was kind of sectioned off. But there's, people just, wake up early and they go in the kitchen and they smash things around and they talk loudly and they talk with each other. And it's just like we're in the common areas. We can't really bitch about it. And plus we were getting a good deal on rent, so we couldn't really bitch about it. But yeah, it feels very strange going from living with 7 different people, including Allie and I. So there's 9 people in a 4-bedroom house. There was 9 of us. And now it's just me and Allie in this basement. It's like back to the basement, because I used to sleep in my mom's basement a lot back in the day. So I'm back in a basement and I'm with Allie and we're doing the damn thing. We're in Wilmore City, Long Beach, and it's this is the first time I've talked on a microphone down here. It feels freeing because it's like somewhat quiet. I don't have to worry about what I'm saying. And if the people upstairs are like, this guy's talking to himself into a microphone, or this guy's talking to himself, I don't know, is it any weirder than playing the same Iron Maiden song over and over and over, day after day? Is what I'm doing right now any weirder than that? I don't know. It's subjective. What is weird? I mean, I think weird is a good thing. So I'm for that dude upstairs. Play that fucking Iron Maiden. Get me out of bed. And I'm for me talking to myself into a microphone without a fucking mic stand, because I am free to pee on my own wee. It feels good. Allie and I had sex, and we didn't have to worry about someone walking into the living room. That was good. Yeah, we have a lock on the door. We have multiple locks. We have a deadbolt, and we have 2 doorknobs. And then we have we're locked up. We're locked in here. We are together, and it feels nice. For the longest time, most of my interpersonal relationships have completely and utterly just fucking exploded right in front of my eyes. And it's just nice that Allie gets me and I get her, and we can just, our differences, we can just kind of poke fun at each other about. We really laugh a lot. It's just nice. Everything's really nice right now. I'm just not going to fuck with anyone in this neighborhood. I'm just going to get in the van. I'm going to go do my shit. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to sit in this little nook, and I'm literally just going to work on projects. I'm going to draw pictures for the people that I promised I would draw them pictures, and hopefully I'm going to improve with that. I'm going to get better over time, and I'm going to make the best podcast I can make. I'm going to stop putting the fucking microphone on a mic stand because it's absolutely makes me want to fucking blow my brains out. So here I am. I'm free. The only thing that is really inhibiting me right now is this stupid headphone cord, which I could take these headphones off too. I mean, the freedom is real. I can taste the freedom. The only thing that is not free about right now is the fact that we signed a contract that says we're going to pay this person X amount of money for the next 12 months. But that's just being an adult, There's a part of me that when I signed that document, I was like, yeah, I had a total fucking meltdown. But it's like, wait a minute. Like, I'm fucking 39 years old. Recently I had a birthday. I'm 39 years old. Do I just want to like run away from this person that I get along with really well? And like, do I just want to run away from an opportunity to have my own space? Just so what? So I can fucking move back into the van? Was that true freedom? Yeah, that was true freedom, because the overhead was very low. Living in a van, the overhead is very low. But there's something to be said about waking up in the morning and being completely butt naked and walking through a space where no one's going to see your sack, and fucking going into the goddamn bathroom that you pay for and taking a fucking piss with your naked body, and then just like scratching yourself, stretching, feeling the cold linoleum on your feet, and then walking back to your bed moments before you hear Iron Maiden the Trooper awake you from your slumber. There's just something to be said about having your own space and not having to wait for someone because they're in the bathroom taking a huge shit, or because they're like having an Epsom salt bath, or because they're looking at fucking Twitter while they're on the toilet. It's just, we have our own space to take giant, massive bowel movements. Yeah. After I got laid off on New Year's, I launched the Patreon, and there's actually, we're at the point where we have 11 patrons. So I'm just going to shout them out right now and say, hey, patrons, thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for supporting your boy Neil. And if you enjoyed this content, I'm a motherfucker on a microphone. I've always held the microphone like this and said, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm in a space where I feel comfortable to do so. Shouts out to the patrons. There's only 11 of you, so I'm just going to shout it out right now. I'm going to shout it out to fucking Bob Ashton, Capricious AF. No real name, just a pseudonym. Capricious AF. Shouts out to you. And shouts out to Chad Anderson, Christopher Willig, Justin Lonstein, Ken Hoffmeyer, Liz, just Liz, Luke J. Hatfield, Sam Pick, the homie, Shawnee Constant, and Willis Smith. Thank you, our 11 patrons that are making SUPcast Sup every single fucking week. And without further ado, here we go. We got Harry motherfucking Bob, a.k.a. Rob Bates. Actually, it's Rob Bates, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Harry Bob, because right now, he's just Rob Bates. He always was Rob Bates. We just gave him that name, and it stuck like a motherfucker. And then we put out an EP, and we played like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows, and he drove our drunk asses around, and it was a thing. It was most certainly a thing. And it kind of blew up in our faces, and you'll hear the whole story here. So here's a very special interview with the one and only Rob Bates, who is in a band called Ellyeahdehd, and it's spelled Ellyeahdehd, and they just put on an album called Ellyeahdehd. So fucking here's Rob Bates, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Harry Bob, a.k.a. Rob from the band Ellyeahdehd. And here we go. This is Neil Patterson, and just feel good possessing the knowledge that a large, hairy, naked man feels free enough to be hairy and naked in his own space. It's a fucking good thing. Fingers crossed, no one fucking shoots us. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the whole Long Beach thing. Yeah, it's all those Sublime songs that you hear and you're like, oh, this is such a sunny summer vibe. It's like, no, there's a lot of darkness in those lyrics. And all the shit that Snoop Dogg was singing about, it's not just fucking cartoony. It's not just fucking a plaything. Like this place is fucking real and it's dangerous, but this is where we are for the next year. So, let's see what happens. But is it any more dangerous than anywhere else? Yeah, I would say so. More dangerous than Dearborn, Michigan? Yes. More dangerous than Toledo, Ohio? I would say yes. More dangerous than Southwest Detroit? Arguable. More dangerous than like fucking 5 Mile and Telegraph? Arguable. I don't really know. How much do I really know about any of this shit? I'm not an encyclopedia. I'm just a dude. But anyway, here we go. SUPcast, Rob Bates. Here we go. Okay.
Oh, doing stuff?
Yeah, we're already rolling.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm getting quicker at this shit. So everyone, hey, my name is Neil Patterson. This is SUPcast. I don't know what episode this is because we've been shooting a lot lately. And I have the man who, for some period of time, was urging me to do this format of media. This is Rob Bates, a.k.a. Harry Bob, former member of Downtown Brown for 5 years, and we've been through a whole lot of poop, and now we're going to record some audio, and we're going to have a little interview, and we're going to talk about who knows what we're going to talk about. I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
I just know I know this dude, and this dude knows me, and we know each other, and we're alive, and we're in Fullerton, California. We're in the living room because we said, fuck the van. Let's get a 2-camera setup. Let's use 2 mirrorless Canon cameras. Let's up the production fucking value. And let's make this killer content, bro.
Double cam.
Double killer content.
Cam.
Okay, so I'm not peeking. Yeah, we're good. Cool. So how's it going, dude?
Good.
I'm sweaty. We just ate In-N-Out.
Yeah, it was fucking cool.
Yeah, everyone loves In-N-Out. In-N-Out is a religious thing around here in Southern California, and anyone who comes out to Southern California, one of the first things they do is they go to In-N-Out.
Well, except for we got the whole dog first. So.
Yeah, we did Hall Dog. But you remember when we first started touring out here, like one of the first things I remember about being out here was eating In-N-Out.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever had that.
Yeah, it's the first time. It was 2007. And
then we named our album I Heart Burgers.
Yeah, so In-N-Out, it's a near and dear place in our hearts and in our souls. I'm going to make sure this camera's going real quick. Hold up.
Sure.
And yeah, we're live. Okay. We're live as fuck, bro. Okay, yeah, Allie's not here. It's just me and Rob. And we're doing the thing. Yeah, but 2007, we drove across the country. We decided our first tour that we were going to do that was any further away from the Midwest. We're like, instead of going to the East Coast like any fucking smart...
Like, yeah, smart bands. Let's do a 3-week West Coast tour.
Let's go out to the West Coast to have our first fucking national tour be a West Coast tour because...
any band I talked to, that actually would have been good for the thing we did yesterday. If you're going to go touring, just do the East Coast, even if it's harder to book. Just do it. Drives will be so much easier.
Now, I don't even think we did West Coast because I think everything was hard to book back then. Because we were an unknown band. Like, no one knew who the fuck we were. So, but, like, what was it who made that decision? Like,
I think it was just to, like, officially be doing it. We just need to go to California and go to the West Coast just to do it. Because remember, we went, I think the routing was, like, straight to San Francisco and then down and then back across. And then the next one we did, we went down to Florida. And then after that, we did like 45-day DIY tour where we did everywhere except for Florida, I think.
Yeah, I don't even remember the fucking routing. All I remember is the first time out west is In-N-Out, Viper Room. I remember we did the Viper Room. And
that's why we did it. That show was a possibility with the Natives, and so we wanted to book the tour around that, and then we got invited back.
Oh, yeah, okay, so the Natives got us that first Viper Room show.
Yeah, the Natives of the New Dawn. Go listen to them. They're on Spotify. That shit's fucking good.
And that was when Tom and I urinated into Sunset Boulevard when we were all blacked out. Okay. Oh, my God, that was crazy. So, yeah, first tour, just blacking out, like... And I assume we played Prescott, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Because for some reason, instead of ever going down to Phoenix, we always played Prescott, which is like 2.5 hours north. Prescott Valley, Arizona.
We did Phoenix too, but the shows were just meh.
Yeah, we always had a good time playing in Prescott at those weird bars, like towny bars. Yeah. That dude Bob would always be. He was really loaded. Oh, fuck.
Already?
The battery's dead already. Okay, I guess we're not going to do two camera thing. We're just going to do one camera. Here we go. Well, you know, the first like fucking 4 minutes of this podcast, we'll have the sweet dual camera setup. Yeah. Like next time, I have to actually charge the batteries.
Yeah,
I totally fucked up. God damn it! I was so looking forward to it too because that was such a crisp angle. It's better lens.
Well, could you just like move that one over there if you like that better? Well, it's just on me though, right?
No, now it's on both of us.
Oh, all right.
This was like the backup angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, fuck. Yeah, and there's no way to power this camera.
You can't just plug it in? I
can't just plug it in and shoot. It has to have a charged battery.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, well, you know, you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. But I don't know, like I'm still recovering from the insane house party we had here a couple days ago.
Yeah, that was wild. You should cut in footage of that.
Yeah, I mean, I could.
Yeah, the living room we're in, there was like this fucking ridiculous show. It was so fun though. Like, I hadn't been to a house show like that in a long time.
Yeah, it's weird because like I've been living in this house for over a year, and it's always pretty quiet unless people are partying. And usually when they're partying, they're doing it out in the garage. So it was really weird to have like the actual room I sleep in have a band playing in it and have like 60 drunk people just throwing beer everywhere. Yeah, well, we'll put a little clip in there. Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
I can do that. I have the skills. Yeah, so. I remember when Wolf was in the band, he brought you over to our practice spot, and I don't even know how did that even work out?
I think I was gonna maybe buy a cabinet from him or something.
Okay.
And I just wanted to hang. Like I was new to going to see bands and whatnot, and I liked the group because I grew up listening to punk rock, but I knew if I was gonna get any good at my instrument, I was gonna have to learn like funk and other stuff. And so then once I found out bands like you guys existed along with Miss Bungle and Infectious Grooves and things like that, then that's what just kind of got me started in like funk punk stuff. But.
Yeah, all I remember is we were like jamming or whatever at Wolf's house in Livonia, and he goes, "Hey everyone, it's Harry Bob," and like that's what he decided to call you.
Yeah.
And
well, I had a huge beard, and I don't know if my hair it wasn't long then. But
did you have long hair then?
No, I think I just had a beard.
Okay, yeah, he just walks in with you, and he goes, "Hey, it's Harry Bob," and then next thing, yeah, and then that's how we knew you. We knew you as Harry Bob from then on out, and and then you would come check out our gigs when we were playing with Wolf. I remember there was one gig I remember you were in the audience, and we were playing at Alvin's in Detroit, and I remember actually like putting my foot on you. Do you remember that? I kicked you from the stage because the crowd wasn't moving or whatever, and I was like, we had just started our set, and I'm like, yeah, let's get the shit going. I kicked Harry Bob.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I definitely like.
I'm trying to think of even seeing you got albums, but I don't know if I was.
And then how did you? There was some gigs where we went down to Toledo and you just tagged along.
Yeah, I wanted to be a merch guy, so I went to Toledo. I remember going to that bar that was. Like first time I think I ever drank in a bar, I think it was like 19 or something. And,
okay, so you were underage and just kind of like hanging out with Downtown Brown before you even were in Downtown Brown.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about because.
And then I think I just mentioned like, yeah, if you ever need anybody, if something happens, I had no idea that Wolf was gonna be leaving or anything, but I was just like, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, and, because we went pretty like with Wolf. We did the first 2 albums, and Wolf and I got together in 2001. And the first shows we ever did was in the very beginning of 2001, and then like we put our first album out by 2002, but he had decided he wanted to quit the band by 2005.
Yeah. Before that, I had been playing in groups with some friends from high school, and it got to the point where I was making okay money, and I needed a car, and I was like, all right, I can either get a normal car and stay at this job and move up, or I can buy a real van and then prepare to tour, because I was going to tour with that group. But then when Wolf left and you had me do the audition for the band, I was like, well, fuck, I can go tour here. But then even when we got in, it took like 2.5 or a year and a half before we even really started doing that. Like I almost quit the band.
I had a job.
Yeah, you didn't want to quit.
I was making
Sam's
good money.
Club.
I was making good money. I was working for Empire Today. And
oh yeah, do you remember we were playing somewhere and you were talking about your job and you said the tagline from the commercial and the whole audience just said 1-800-EMPIRE.
Yeah, it's 800-588-2300 Empire Today. Doom. Yeah, that was the company I was working for. And I was making money. I had insurance. Yeah. I was making decent money. I was working part-time, but I was working like 30-something hours. I was getting paid at the time I was getting paid $11 an hour plus commission, and I was making good commission. But I didn't, what's weird is I made money, but I just spent it all. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me at the time. I could have been saving it or doing something, but I hated the job. Yeah. And I remember you had joined the band in 2005, and we were just doing regional shit. We were going to Chicago. It's when we started really doing regional shit is after you joined the band in 2005.
Shout out to Rule 22, Pirate Studios.
Yeah, shout outs to Pirate Studios, Tom and Dave. And and that's when the light bulb really went off in my head. It's like, hey, this could work other places than the Midwest or
yeah, that
Detroit.
Was the first place we played out of town where it was like, this is fucking
where
crazy.
It popped off.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, if this can happen, in some random town with a bunch of kids we've never even met and they're buying our t-shirts and they think we're cool, it's like we can probably do this fucking everywhere. And it got to the point where I got miserable enough in my job where before I even knew what my depression and my anxiety, how powerful they were, I didn't know what was going on in my brain. And the way I look at it now, I was just being depressed and anxious about my life and where my life was going and my relationship. And yeah, I just quit. I just quit that job. I folded up my apron and handed it to my boss, and I just said I quit.
Oh, I remember when you called me after that. You were laughing like a fucking like a supervillain or something. Like, I just quit.
I quit. Well, yeah.
And then, we did that little run we did up to Minneapolis like a week to kind of test the waters. And then we booked that 3-week West Coast and then came back. But when we were doing it, though, we were coming back just long enough to get back to normal for 3 months and then going again. And I wanted to just go 9 months out of the year. We're just gone for 2 years.
But still doing 100+ shows a year is still a good amount to be touring.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you don't have a following, and at the time it's just that much more difficult.
But I remember you being like, why don't we just stay on tour and be booking while we're on tour? And I'm just like, You know, I was drunk as shit at the time. I'm just like, that sounds like a lot of work. Fuck that.
Well, it was a lot harder though too, because we would have to find a coffee shop with internet. Like, we used to have a Wi-Fi adapter in the computer because it couldn't even get an actual signal, and it was it would have been more doable today, but not not back then. It would have been hard to do, but I think it could have been done. But it's just like, yeah, you have to work extremely hard to stay out there.
Yeah. Yeah, those days were very blurry for me.
I bet.
Because I was like in the throes of self-medicating myself heavily with alcohol. But before I knew what my anxiety and what my depression was, I was just fucking dumping booze on top of it. And then I remember we played a show with Lights at Theater Bazaar, and I remember that was the first night I started going on Zoloft. It was June 6th, 2006. It was 666.
That was a 666 party, yeah.
And I think it's funny, like, I don't know if there's any like real meaning behind it, but the fact that I started taking SSRI antidepressants on 666, like, definitely sign of the beast. And I remember that show because we did a photo shoot, and we had Light Show Bob in the photo shoot, and as well as this saxophone player Swisher, and like, I still have all those photos. Doug Coombe did the photo shoot. Yeah. But and we were like taking pictures in Light Show Bob's camper was like pulled on his Theater Bazaar grounds and stuff. But I remember being on stage and feeling immediately, like, after starting to take those pills for one day, feeling different. And then the side effects didn't really kick in until maybe a week or two later. But that was the point where I started like heavily drinking and mixing antidepressants in the mix. It was funny is on the bottle, the antidepressants bottle says do not consume with alcohol, and I was straight up eating antidepressants every day and then blacking out on top of it. So I was a hot mess. I would go from just being like super fucking drunk and super blacked out and like having the time of my life and just being a complete mess to like waking up and having full-blown panic attacks and like wanting to go to the hospital because I thought my heart was going to stop. And it was just like rinse repeat. That's what like tour was like for me. It was just like, it was, you know, you were the straight dude in the band, you owned the vehicle, and it pretty much like I was just enabled.
Well, you were able to do that because you didn't have the responsibility of having to get anywhere.
and nor did I want the responsibility.
Yeah.
I selfishly was just like, okay, well, I can just like get fucked up literally all day, every day, and like Rob is just gonna drive us around, and it was you know, fuck that. I'm sorry, dude. Now you're laughing about it now, but like in hindsight, because what ended up happening is after you and I split and I continued doing the band, is I became band dad.
Yeah.
And then I dealt with a situation where one of my members was like, I was driving him around and he was fucking loaded. So it was a total like karmic payback for years with the new lineup, because I was essentially having to do with Homeboy what you know, he wasn't as reckless as I was.
Yeah.
And we didn't have Swisher in the mix, but still like having to drive around an alcoholic all around the country is fucking rough, man. And yeah, I feel pretty bad about all that shit.
That's all right.
Yeah, and I know you and I have discussed it in private like a buttload, but it's like goddamn, like why did you stay in the band?
Because I wanted to tour. The only thing I liked doing was playing. I didn't like any other part of it. I didn't care about partying. It's not that I didn't like talking to people, I just wasn't good at it, so I
put
really
the mic a
little
little closer to your face.
Yeah, and
just because you.
But yeah, I just really like to play more than anything. Like, I remember you used to say before a bass solo, the only time he's ever happy is when I see him on stage. And that was very true.
Would I say that?
You said it before a bass solo a few times on stage, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't like doing anything else besides that. It was the only thing I liked to do.
I remember when we got to LA, it was one of the first or second times we ever got there, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna go walk around Melrose, or we were like in West Hollywood, and we're like, we're gonna go check out the city, and you're just like, I'm just gonna stay in the van. You're like, I don't care about any of this shit. and at the time I was just like, oh, what a bummer, you know, this is so fucking amazing. But now like, you know, if I'm touring with the band, I definitely am just like, you know, I've seen this country so fucking much. Well, I'm at that point because I've already seen everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at the point where I really don't give a fuck about, like, checking things out and doing touristy stuff.
Oh, you got to do that stuff, though. It's cool.
But what's funny is you were like that, like, when we first got out here. You were like, I don't give a fuck about West Hollywood. just gonna stay in the van.
I mean, we drove through it and I got to see it. It's like, whatever.
I just thought that was funny. I didn't get it at the time. I'm just like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, but it's like,
well, I'd probably been driving the whole time too.
yeah, no, you were driving around a bunch of fucking idiots. Like Don and I were probably like being annoying as fuck and drinking all the time, and yeah, you're just like, fuck. I just want to like take a load off and, you know.
Well, that was like when I got in because I lived an hour away from where our rehearsals were too, so I was having to drive an hour each way just to jam, and I think that had a major effect on why we didn't write a lot of songs while I was in the band, because I would get to rehearsals and I'm already like, not tired, but I maybe had worked all day, then drove an hour to go to rehearse.
Well, yeah.
And it's like the last thing I want to do is be creative after all of that. And,
I think the other thing, too, is if you really want to get a lot of writing done, you need to rehearse more than once a week.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was tough to do that.
I think really what we were doing those days is we probably were only rehearsing once a week, if that.
Just for shows, and we were playing a lot, too.
Yeah,
so there wasn't a lot of time to do an album. That's why, like, the whole time I was in the band, we wrote, like 3 songs in 2-3 years or something like that.
We wrote an EP.
Yeah, but some of those were already together before I even got in. And so
we definitely wrote more than 3 songs. We
Yeah.
probably wrote anywhere between like 8 and 12 songs, but just like I think we had a lot of ideas that ended up not becoming full songs. Well,
in the style, I wanted to get really just weird and almost progressive, and the stuff that you had been bringing was more structured, which is fine, but I think I was under the impression it was just going to get strange once we got into writing. And I wasn't expecting to do normal pop songs, even though they did blend genres. But I don't know. I was just, and I still wasn't good enough to, like, now with the band I'm in now, Ellyeahdehd, we just, it's almost seamless how much we write stuff and bring riffs together and everything else. And I just didn't have that. I didn't jam enough by myself. And the one thing I do regret is I didn't learn a lot of songs. Like, I never really spent time learning covers. And what's really good about learning cover songs is you see how people do things, like how they make transitions or different chord progressions that worked in different ways. And I always would get, I think it's probably undiagnosed ADD stuff, where I just would never like want to sit down and actually finish learning how to play these. But then I started learning more cover songs after I left the band. Not a ton, but just, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I've played that progression before. Oh, that's how that part links. That's what they did there. And I wish I would have spent more time doing that when I was younger, because that would have been very valuable. And I just didn't do it.
Yeah, when I first started playing guitar in like 6th grade or whatever, that's all I did is learn other people's songs.
I learned like maybe 10 songs, and then I just went to jam my own stuff.
But that was my formative years of learning guitar, was all just like learning Metallica riffs, learning Megadeth riffs, learning Sublime riffs, learning 311 riffs, learning Green Day riffs, just like learning all of the bands that I like. Pretty much any band that I like, I would start learning their shit. Yeah. And then all I would do is pick the parts I liked about those bands, and I would just start writing my own riffs, like kind of in those styles. And all Downtown Brown essentially is just an amalgamation of all the shit I listened to growing up. Yeah, for sure. That's why the sound is very even to this day, it's a very like 90s sounding band, because everything, it's just a mix of all my influences, which was everything I was listening to coming up in the 90s. If anything, like now it's starting to delineate a little bit and use some more modern sounding stuff, because I'm actually, for the first time in a long time, I'm actually like exploring new music and listening to new sounds and becoming excited about shit other than just like...
Yeah, because you didn't listen to any new stuff when we were traveling. Like, you would not even like... If I put on bands we were playing with, you wouldn't even want to listen to it. And I'm like,
I was a big hater.
I was like, these guys are sweet. Why don't you want to listen to this? It's like, and it's just. I
was just set in my ways, and I was definitely like, back then I was definitely like, I'm just like, well, I like what I like, and it's this short list. Yeah. And I was definitely like kind of closed-minded as far as embracing other shit, and also I was like, I had this very competitive bullshit, like competitive nature about me, where it's like I couldn't enjoy anything because all I wanted to do is pick out like why what I did was better than that shit, and which is really just like a very narrow way of thinking, because it's like life isn't a competition. Like, people do things, you do things, they should be able to coexist without you being like, I'm better, or like I'm in competition with that. Like, a lot of the local type or regional bands that we would play with, I would just be like, well, you know, they do this, but what we do is this, and this is better. Like I had this, I was like in competition with literally.
It's cool that they do stuff.
But it was also just a part of being insecure, immature, young, closed-minded, and all of the dumb things that I was back then, which just like I was at war with myself, and then in turn I was at war with everyone else. I just like wanted to just be the, like, I don't know. I just thought I was great and that I was gonna be great. And over the last 15 or so years, there's been a lot of ego death for me.
Oh, for sure.
And there's been a lot of me realizing that really like everything about what I do is really not shit. And it's been an awakening experience. And I'm really glad actually moving out here was just a huge dose of ego death, because I went from being like kind of a big fish in a small pond out in Detroit. We sold out the Loving Touch. We sold out a 400 cap venue. And I'm just like, I came out here very confident. And, I've been out here for 3+ years, and it's just it kicks your teeth in.
Yeah.
It literally, you have to, I had to start over. Like, and I don't care that we've been touring out here for 10 years. Like, none of that shit matters, because we didn't make enough of a splash for it to even matter. And if we made any splash 10 years ago, like it's long gone. Yeah. So really I had to come out here and just be like, who the fuck am I? What do I stand for? And like, how can I reimagine my definition of success and just be okay with existing and being alive? And that's been the biggest process of being out here is getting rid of all those fucking crazy expectations and getting rid of the fucking ego.
Well, that was like, when you're saying find out what you're going to do, that was when I was doing those fill-in tours, and I had just started listening to Rogan's podcast, and I was like, dude, you should do that. Like, people find you interesting, and people get to know you, because like when I first started listening to that, I didn't give a fuck about UFC, and I didn't really like the stand-up all that much, but you get to know a person, and it's like, oh, that's fucking hilarious, and I just won't go out of my way to listen to stand-up or even watch the fights, but I'll listen to that podcast whenever that comes out. And I was like, I bet it would work well. And I told him to do it, 4 years ago or whatever I did those fill-ins. And imagine where that would be right now.
What year was that where
it was probably 2013, I think.
It's 2013.
So that was fucking 7 years ago.
But you also did, when we opened up for the Addicts in 2014.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't believe that was that long ago.
Imagine if you would have did it, buddy.
Well, but I don't think you necessarily were pressuring me to do the podcast like right after those shows. I feel like it came a little bit later. I feel like
I think I just brought it up.
It was when you were working with Rob from ATG at the print place. I remember you were really pressing it.
Well, yeah, because we were going to start a podcast, and we actually recorded 5 episodes of that, but we were really seeing, oh, this is actually going to be a lot of work. We're like,
it is a lot of work.
It is. So no, I don't disagree.
Did one with, you had me.
No, we did one with you. We did one with Jono from Swellers. We did one with Jim from Counterpunch and the dudes in Snafu. And those are in the can. Maybe we'll just put them out. But
dude, those all are probably pretty interesting to listen to.
Yeah, we did it.
Those are homies.
We were going to start doing more, but like at the time, like our equipment was dog shit and we really didn't even know what to do. And this was, that was probably 2015 or 2016 or something.
You need to get your ass some Joe Rogan mics, bro.
Yeah, really. But
I'm so pissed about that camera, dude. It looked
sucks.
so good. It was like right on your ass.
Yeah.
It was like right up in your grill, and then the fucking battery died. That's the other thing I'm noticing about a lot of these podcasts is they have like repeat guests.
Oh yeah. No, you don't. Just because you use one, I mean you can't.
Yeah, it's not like I can only interview Rob Bates once and then it disappears forever. So, because I've already had Ron on twice. I mean, and the podcast is only 20 something episodes deep, but
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, pretty much all it is human beings talking about life and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were we even talking about right?
Getting it started.
All I remember is when we were driving around it was either the East Coast or we were driving around somewhere with Psycho Stick and Rob had rejoined Downtown Brown to do these tours on bass, and we did a run with Psycho Stick and then we did a run with the Addicts. We did 5 dates with the Addicts. Yeah. Which was amazing. But I remember he's like, here, like, let's listen to these people talk. And I'm just like, what? And he put on Ari Shaffir's podcast. And I remember it like very, very vividly. And Ari Shaffir goes on this big, long story where he's talking about how he started off sleeping in his car. That
podcast just reminded me of view. I was like, you should probably hear this.
Okay, so you chose to play that for me.
Specifically, yeah.
Okay.
No, I wanted you to hear that. Like,
so
and then like we also listened to like the first Burt Kreischer when he was on Rogan with the Machine story and all that too.
Well, those are the two stories I remember the most.
Yeah.
So Rob puts this thing on in the van, and we're driving around, and there's a lot of time to kill when you're driving around doing gigs. You have hours and hours of driving to like listen to music.
And
or
it's
whatever.
nice to have something that's different from music. After all that.
Like I'd almost rather listen to a podcast than music these days.
It's turned into about 60 to 70% of my listening is podcast versus music now.
It's interesting, and if you find, if you become engaged with the creator, it's entertaining enough you can kill a lot of time listening to people just fucking run their mouth. And so Ari Shaffir is talking about, I had this day job and I'm sleeping in my car, and I'm an unpaid feature at the Comedy Store, and it was a big, long, involved saga about how Mitzi Shore, who is, rest in peace, was at the time the owner of the Comedy Store, would always tell Ari that you're too this, you're not enough this, you're not good enough, you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not ready. And literally, like by the end of the story, like Ari's on his podcast and he's like in tears talking about how he became a paid feature. Like that was like one of the most important things that ever happened to him in his life, was becoming a paid feature.
Paid regular.
Paid regular. Yeah. I don't know the exact terms. I'm not in stand up, but I just remember, like, at the end of that story, I'm like, wow, that was, like, really fucking powerful, because he just, the way he told the story, you just got so involved, and you actually, like, I didn't even know who the guy was. And by the end of it, I'm like, wow, like, good for him, man. I was, like, totally engaged. And, yeah, and that's the power of podcasting as a media. You can really become attached to another human being and what they have to say. And, I never thought, like, yeah, I should do this. And we heard the Machine story. The whole Machine bit is fucking amazing. Burt Kreischer's story about how he, befriended Russian gangsters on a school trip.
So good.
is fucking a really great story. That pretty much made him famous.
Yeah, no, it did.
That story.
What happened, what made him famous was he cut that out of his Showtime special after it had already been out for a year and nobody gave a fuck, and just put that story on Facebook, and then it went viral. And then what made it go extra viral was people that were actually in his class were in the comment section saying, yeah, that actually happened. Here's some photos from the trip.
Oh, no way.
So it legitimized it. It made it not just made up. And then it just started getting spread.
So not only he has this fucking crazy story, but like everyone that was there was like, yeah, dude.
The initial time he told it on that Rogan episode got him going, and then he put it in a special, and it still didn't quite do it. But it was him chopping it up without permission from Showtime and just throwing it on Facebook. And that's what blew it the fuck up. It just went viral organically.
So he told it on Rogan. He told it in his bit, in his stand-up act.
Yeah.
But it didn't catch until he like actually grabbed the footage and threw it on social media.
Yeah, but it did. I mean, it caught all that stuff. Led.
If he was on Showtime, he probably had a decent career to begin with.
Well, no, all that. Yeah, like the story. It was on Rogan, and that's what it was going like probably like mini viral.
Yeah, mini viral.
And that was starting to get his numbers for tickets. And then when he did that, that's when his whole career blew up. Like,
crazy. So yeah, anyway, long story short, I'm driving around with Rob and we're listening to podcasts and I didn't even know what it was.
Well, I was just thinking, like, yeah, you're on the road, you meet all these people, you can definitely do this. There's no limit on guests, especially if you go on tour again anytime soon. Like,
yeah, and it's been cool because, regardless of how big the band Downtown Brown is, the thing that we've been doing for years and years and years, like for some reason, we've made an impact with the people we play with enough for them to like say yes to being on the podcast. Like the first guest was fucking HR of Bad Brains.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And yeah, so really that was a really good first foot forward into this whole realm, because I'm like, okay, if like our first episode out of the gate with a guest, we could have a guest of that magnitude, it's like, that's a good thing. So, But yeah, I don't know. A lot of times, at least recently, I've been having more fun like interviewing lesser known, like up and coming weird bands. Like the Wacko podcast
that was great.
That was the most fun I've had doing this thing so far, and it really opened my eyes, because it's like, okay, I could interview these older, like legendary punk people or notable musician type people, or I could just find some fucking weirdos that are doing something new, and they're young and hungry and have
just mix up everything.
Yeah,
get all that. So.
And then the other thing that I've been enjoying doing is getting like old bandmates and kind of talking shop about,
Well, what happened. And all
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a rite of passage. It's like, here we are. It's like, well, who's going to be the next ex Downtown Brown member on this thing? Get Swish around here. We're gonna have him
probably be interesting.
Have him fucking assault me like while
maybe
we're
you could
filming it.
maybe you could have him agree to go in the back of the cage of the van, and you could interview him with like a cage between you.
Like put a Silence of the Lambs mask on him. Just like, here, wear this, just so I know you won't bite me during the interview. That's
Oh, here's a drunk Neil story I just remembered.
Yeah.
So one time we were staying with Lauren from Foxy Shazam, and he was nice enough to let us crash. And
was it his parents' house?
I don't remember if it was his parents or where he was.
It probably was.
I don't know. It was a nice place.
Were we in the basement?
No, that was Sky's.
Sky's.
It was the other place.
I don't remember staying at Lauren's.
Well, yeah, you were there, and you were eating a burrito and got it all over the back seat, and then were adamant about not cleaning it up, and I was like almost screaming at you, and my fist was clenched so hard. If we were anywhere else, I would have hit you that night.
Well, I did.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking punch him in Lauren's living room. But that was the closest I came to hitting you. Was that?
Yeah, I mean, if I were you, I would have hit me a bunch of times, dude. I was really sick, dude. I was selfish. I was very like, I don't know what I thought about myself. I just was like, I was in my own little world, and I just was completely fucked up all the time, and I was hurting really bad. I was just a fucking messed up dude.
Yeah.
And but
yeah, dude.
But yeah, dude. But really, what I did is I used the alcohol as just an excuse to be a fucking moron and be the loudest, drunkest idiot of all time. And I almost wore it like a badge of honor when we started hanging out with Tommy Kuzmano and Steve Lutch and this group of dudes in Detroit had this T-shirt company and this website, and it was called IamSickAndTiredOfWhiteGirls.com. And they had this guerrilla promoting tactic that they used to promote their brand, where they would go to music festivals and they would like dress up in chicken suits and like flog each other with belts and just like drink fifths in public, and it was insane. They were just insane, and I just remember being like, these guys are getting a lot of attention, and they're a total train wreck, but like it's working for them.
Yeah, that's where you took like the bullhorn from.
Yeah, and, they had a bullhorn. They would scream at everyone walking by. They would like whip each other with belts. They just were just a drunk mess. But everything they did got headlines in the news. And
they got a lot of press. They sold a lot of shirts.
Dude, they sold a lot of shirts. Yeah. Their website was blowing up. The controversy was blowing all that shit up. And this was during the time when like Jackass first hit. And I don't know why or how it happened, but they decided and we decided that we were going to team up together and start this record label called Chocolate Stain Records, which is, I came up with the title because I've been about chocolate stains since like 98. I'm really into chocolate stains. There's chocolate stains on my white sheets over there, actually, which is kind of funny. Yeah. But it's actual chocolate. Because my girlfriend and I were eating ice cream in bed. Actual, legitimate chocolate stains. Yeah, but so we teamed up. We teamed up with those dudes, and yeah, it got to a point where it wasn't even about the music. It was just about being as stupid as possible to attract as much attention to ourselves as possible, as we possibly could, and it totally worked. It was the beginning of the MySpace era. Like we got a lot of attention, and we started getting, I talked about this as well in the Drown podcast, but it was actually working. We got asked to do multiple dates on the Warped Tour, and we were like murdering it at those shows. Like we were really.
Oh yeah, no, that was going really well while we were there.
But this is still like my memory is a little hazy, but it seemed like you were straight. I was really drunk. Yeah. But we were playing in front of big crowds, weren't we?
Yeah, we had been going all around the Midwest, the whole crazy, and the Warped Tour dates we got, I think it was.
They were all our strong cities.
Yeah, it was Detroit, Cincinnati, Chicago, Minneapolis, like Milwaukee. Well, we never played Milwaukee, but and then Cleveland, and then we were supposed to go to New York and Pennsylvania, and then we had a meltdown in Cleveland and ended up getting kicked off the tour.
Yeah.
And it was just.
But the shows we did play, so we played 5 out of 7, or did we play 4 out of 7?
We did 5 out of. Well, we had 2 more to go. We played everything up to then. So
I remember in Detroit, they had us wedged in between the Toasters and Big D and the kids' table.
Yeah, they moved us to a different stage because our stage got hit by lightning on the way there.
So they moved us to this different stage, and when we played Detroit in 2007 at the Warped Tour, like, hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
We're recording a podcast. there was I mean, it was a sea of fucking people.
It was probably like 2,000-3,000 people. Like,
Yeah.
And yeah, as soon as we finished up, the toasters had just gotten done and we had the horns. So the people probably thought we were a ska band. And so everyone came over from the toasters and we did our thing. And I remember you did a sketch where you said you were going to suck off the singer at Killswitch Engage because he was so tough.
Oh, yeah.
That's about. I don't remember much more from that, but I remember that did happen.
I remember I showed my fat, white, naked, bare ass to like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the big bummer about being an alcoholic and being drunk most of the times you perform, because most of it like had to do with social anxiety lubricant.
Yeah.
Like half the reason I drank is because I hated myself and I was like didn't know who I was and I was very insecure and I had really bad anxiety. But like it got to the point where I used it as a performance enhancer. Like I got super fucking drunk every night because I knew that if I had enough booze in me that I would say the craziest, dumbest shit and I would be a fucking maniac on stage.
Some of it was fucking hilarious.
And that's the thing is it like there were people that would reward that behavior.
Yeah.
And they would validate that state that I was in, and they would come up to me and they'd be like you're a fucking genius, or like that was the best shit I've ever seen. But it took for me to be sober for a amount of years to realize that I could get that same reaction from people, like being totally straight. And on top of it, you get to remember things.
Yeah.
You get to like remember the good gigs. Like when we played House of Blues, opening up for the Addicts.
Yeah.
Like I remembered what that felt like. You know, we played in front of like 1,500, 2,000 people or whatever, but I actually like walked away from that and I was like, oh, like I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Got video. Not only did we get video footage and shit, but like it's like I was there.
Well, yeah. So speaking of remembering things, I just wanted to go through the Warped Tour thing while I'm thinking about it.
Let's go.
So we get to Cleveland and we've been doing great, like at every show, and so played Cleveland and it was actually pretty packed for that too. And
that was a good one.
And then this huge storm rolls in, and so
in the middle of the summer, hailstorm in the middle of the summer.
So we met this dude in Cleveland years ago that he looked like Rick Moranis, so we just called him Rick Moranis.
Still looks like Rick Moranis.
Yeah,
it's just he's like buffer now.
Fucking Rick Moranis. Anyway, so Rick Moranis shows up at like 9 a.m. with like 2 cases of beer, and us and him and the natives just killed those by like noon. And so him and Swisher went back on a beer run, and instead of getting more beer, they come back with 2 half-gallons of vodka.
Came back with some handles.
Yeah. And so then everyone's continuing to do that, and I'm actually drinking a little bit here too, because I'm like, we got a long drive, fuck it, we'll just pass out early, because we were done playing by like 1 or 2, I think.
Yeah.
And so then I'm just getting like I wasn't like hammered, but I was like more drunk than I had been every day, because the Warped Tour was the roughest thing I'd ever done ever, really, because you're there till 9 at night, and then you gotta drive 6 hours to load in at 7 a.m. the next morning wherever you're going. And we did this in our van with no trailer, with 6 people and no driver, or 5 people.
It was Benny.
Yeah, Benny, Swisher, Glover,
and the 3 of us.
Yeah. So, and I was the driver. Like, I probably should have killed us. I remember seeing.
Dude, Benny, at some point, Benny drove a little bit, and we had all been drinking all day. So even the people that were taking over for driving had been drinking all day.
Yeah.
So, like, those are the type of really smart decisions we used to make back then. But to us, getting to the next stop of Warped Tour is more important than anything.
Yeah. No, I really wasn't drinking at all on Warped Tour until that. And well, really, because you're just too tired. And I remember, I think I almost had a heat stroke in Minneapolis because it was so goddamn hot.
Yeah.
And, like, we weren't. On Warped Tour, we were nobody, so we weren't even getting paid.
Nope.
We were just living off our merch.
Yep.
And they were even getting mad with us, like, taking water. And I remember when I was, like, in Minneapolis, I just was sitting next to a pallet, and I'm like, fuck it, I need to drink this, I'm going to die. And so I just laid there until I felt good enough to walk around again, because it was, like, 99 degrees and on a parking lot. But yeah, I remember driving from Minneapolis to Milwaukee, just seeing shapes moving across the road and, like, almost losing it. And then anyway, so we get...
the Milwaukee date was the only date where there wasn't a good crowd for us.
Yeah, well, we never played that city.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, anyway, back to Cleveland. So Rick Moranis and the natives and all that, or Rick Moranis and Swisher show up with 2 fifths of vodka. Then this storm rolls in, like one of the worst storms I've ever been in. It was insane. And
it was like God decided to shit all over Warped Tour.
Yeah.
Like
and
hail, wind. It was insane.
So we had our merch tent we had to share with all the other bands on our stage. It was about 20 by 20. And it had like these metal poles with like 2 cables that crossed each other and then a pole in the middle. And so the storm was so bad, it blew the 2 feet of this tent up like 20 feet in the air. And then when it came down, the top support fell over and the tent all came into 2 sections of the cable and started filling up with water. And it was like dangerous. Like it looked like the tension could potentially snap those cables from the weight of all this water. And so Swisher just cut a hole in the tent, and he actually emptied it into a 55-gallon barrel and filled it up and then pushed it over and filled it up more. Like that's how much water was in there.
He kind of saved the day at that
point. Because that water was collecting over top of all of our amp heads and gear and everything else, and guitars and whatnot. And so then Warped Tour is mad at us for cutting their tent. We already think we're gone. And so I have to talk to Kevin Lyman because you guys were both so hammered, and I was more buzzed than I had been. So I'm like trying to get straight face with that.
You pretty much begged him to let us
And I was
stay.
like, look, we'll show up in New Jersey the next day and we'll tape it up and do whatever we got to do. We were going to just kind of pack up and leave at that point. But then Neil and Swisher decided to go get food. And so while in the food line, Pat takes a huge drag of his cigarette and blows it in a Warped Tour person's face and gets in a fist fight in catering. And so then we're gone. And I'm like while they were doing that, I was trying to round up Glover or Don or Danny or whatever. And
Glover.
he's just gone.
Glover.
And so the way we were promoting ourselves on Warped Tour was you don't find out when you play until you get there. And so we had thousands of flyers with blank things on it that we would just write our set time in, and then Neil and Swisher and Glover would go out. Neil was wearing remember the Burger King costume?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so he's wearing the Burger King mask with the cape and no shirt and gym shorts and just his huge gut hanging out.
I was very fat at the time.
And then Swisher had like a wrestling singlet with a stuffed crotch, and then Glover was wearing a cowboy hat with Superman underwear.
Yeah,
and
he was just in like Superman,
Yeah.
like a little kid would wear, like Superman
exactly.
whitey tighties.
And so that's how they would go pass out flyers to get people to come see us before we played.
And it worked.
And so when we can't find Glover, when we're getting thrown out for the second time, he's just nowhere to be found. And and the only thing he's wearing is this cowboy hat and underwear, so he doesn't have a phone on him or anything. And so like we can't find him. And so we're like wandering around trying to figure it out, and then all of a sudden they're kicking us out, so we have to leave. So we're driving around, and the dude Ben let us come hang in his apartment for a second to regroup to figure out what the hell we were gonna do. And so then at a certain point, like 7, 8 at night, we're like, well fuck, I guess we just gotta leave him. I don't know what to do. And so we're getting ready to call his parents and be like, sorry, we lost your son in Cleveland.
Oh, my God.
And then he calls his cell phone right before we're about to make that call. And he goes, hey, guys, I'm in the hospital.
Oh, no.
And then from what I remember, it turns out he was on top of a parking structure because the way the Warped Tour was at, it's on like the lake and it kind of weaves
It's
comes
below
down.
the highway.
Yeah.
It was like that Cleveland venue was like on the lake, but it's like underneath a bunch of highway.
Yeah, so he was, from what he said, at least from how I remember it, he was on top of the parking structure and looking over the edge and be like, wow, that's pretty high up there. Oh, and he had been drinking with everybody all day too.
Yeah, we all were loaded.
Oh, and then, anyway, so I'll tell this part of it and go back for another one. Yeah, there's so much shit in this story. So he's like, oh, that's pretty high. And then he says the next thing he remembers is caving in the roof of a car, and he shattered his ankle falling off of a parking structure.
He fell into a car?
That's what I thought he said. He'd have to correct that.
Don, did you fall into a car?
Yeah, I don't
bro?
know. Even if you, you know what? Just say you did, because that's fucking sweet. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
for the record,
so then
for the
he's,
record, he like fell 9 stories and he smashed a car like the Hulk.
and so he said he was just hobbling around the tour, and some EMT happened to see him and wanted to call an ambulance, and he's telling him not to call an ambulance because he couldn't afford it, but he did and forced him to go. And so Don calls us from the hospital, and we have to go get him. And then we were just had to drive home, and then that was Detroit, or that was the Warped Tour. Oh, and then at one other point, after the tent had fallen, I remember you, Swisher, Don, and Rick Moranis were streaking
I did not streak.
with fifths of vodka in their hands. Oh, it was just the 3 of them?
I remembered this.
Oh no, you were
What?
you were sweeping water. Remember
Yes.
that?
So everyone at Warped Tour is running for cover and they're screaming, and I was just loaded, and I'm like, I was holding this push broom and I was screaming into the air. I was going,
Yeah, I remember that.
"Ah!" And then people would like be running by screaming like, oh my God, there's hail. And I would be taking this push broom and I would be pushing water at them as they're running by trying to get away from the water. I would be like spraying them with more water, and then just like I would take a break and start screaming at the sky again. And then meanwhile, while I was doing this and just being a total obnoxious asshole to everyone that was trying to seek cover, Rick Moranis, Don, and Swisher all got completely nude at an all-ages festival, and they were running around like with fifths of vodka in their hand and just streaking while the hail was coming down. Because
it was
it's the only time you could have gotten away with that. Because if there wasn't a giant torrential downpour of like God's just jizz everywhere, you wouldn't be able to get away with running naked through an all-ages festival. Someone would tackle you and make sure that you're going to jail.
Yeah.
But because it was such chaos.
It was just chaos, yeah.
Because it was such chaos.
There was like tents blown over everywhere.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Like, it was scary chaos. And I was just so drunk, and I didn't care about dying back then because I just hated myself and my life anyway.
Yeah, but like the worst part of that whole thing was like we were doing so good, and we became friends with the current barbecue band. So we were going to be like the Andrew WK Valiant Thor, the tour the next year. And Neil and Glover both were working at a catering company, so they're already doing what that band was doing.
Yeah,
and it would have been perfect. Like
they definitely told us in so many words that the next year we would be on the entire tour and playing every day on the Warped Tour and cooking for everyone as the barbecue band. And then like that's a job.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been easy, but we would have had the tour. And
it would have been our summer job
to
play music at Warped Tour every single day and then cook food for people. And then, I can't tell you how many bands broke in the 2000s that they broke because of Warped Tour, Flog and Molly, you name it. And we had all been going to Warped Tour since the first one I ever went to was 96.
Yeah,
so
I went to 98. Yeah, it was huge
a big deal. And
I remember when you found Kevin Lyman's email and we got the confirmation, we were like, holy fuck,
we couldn't believe it was real.
Yeah. And then I remember we never followed up and you didn't hear anything. And so you just didn't you get his phone number or something? And you called him or you emailed him and you just said, hey, you said we could be on these days. And he's like, okay. And then that was it. And then we just were on.
Yeah, it was weird. It's almost like we didn't get on it, but then we told him he said that we were on it. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then sent us the confirmation. We were really ruthless back then as far as trying to obtain opportunities. It's just one of those weird things when you're in your 20s and you're really hungry, literally and figuratively, but you're really fucking driven to do big things because you have all this big dick energy coming from you because you're young and stupid and you don't know how the business works. So you're just doing all of these questionable things in order to get your foot in the door. It kind of reminded me of that movie Airheads. We definitely didn't pretend to hold a gun to anyone's head, but we would do crafty weird shit in order to fucking get gigs, in order to get the band to the next level. And that was part of it. I kind of remember that. I kind of remember just communicating with Kevin Lyman and be like, oh yeah, did we lie our way into being on Warped Tour? I don't remember.
I thought you said you had talked to him, or you got a number from somebody, and I don't remember. But,
I don't remember.
Well, we did it.
I don't remember how it worked, but regardless, we got the gigs, and then we completely squandered the opportunity because of alcoholism.
Yeah, and after that, I was I think my heart was out of it after that point. I think I did a tour or two more, and then I was
why would your heart be in it? Yeah. That's the one thing that I had a hard time grasping why you even stayed in the band for even a fucking day after that happened.
Well, Psycho Stick called me the day after, just coincidentally.
And you just recently informed me of that. I guess he, Rob here had gotten offered a gig to play bass for Psycho Stick immediately after we got booted from Warped Tour.
Yeah, they had no idea too. It was just a coincidence.
He could have just jumped ship and joined a successful band, but he stayed with our stupid asses.
And then I remember it was the following tour. I think that was when you got so hammered at the Magic Stick you forgot how to play, and then we had to leave the next day for tour. I don't think I said a word to you for 3 days after that on the road.
Yeah, because it was embarrassing. My mom was at that show. Pretty much what happened is we got this big write-up in Real Detroit Weekly where they said that we're the real deal. This band is too punk for Warped Tour, and that further fanned the curiosity in the band. So when we had the show, at the Magic Stick, and there was like 300 people
Yeah, it did
there.
really well.
Yeah, there was a fuckload of people there, and I got so loaded that I forgot how to play the fucking guitar.
Yeah, you couldn't play Kick Out the Jams, which is like such a simple song too.
Like, and the girl I was hooking up with at the time was just like, "You're a mess. You left your Les Paul at the Magic Stick." She took me the next day to go get it, and I just was like a fucking mess. I was fucking terribly sick. I was 250 pounds. My blood pressure was that of like a dying old man, and I was just chasing antidepressants with alcohol. I was just like eating terribly. It was bad. That was definitely like a rock bottom moment. My mom said she came out to that gig and she's like, I had to leave. It was disgusting. And I just remember being like, ugh. And then,
I think I had walked off stage before we were even done.
Yeah, you were done with me, man.
I had to go. I think I had to go settle up. Like, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah, because I couldn't count numbers.
Yeah.
I remember so many of those gigs at the Magic Stick when the dude Ralph, I don't know if Ralph still works there, but we would settle up at the end, and I just remember he would just look at me when I was trying to count money, and he would just be like, this guy is fucking so loaded. Like, smash. Whoops. Yeah, the mics will pick that up. That was a crash cymbal in the kitchen that just fell. Yeah, but and then, well, yeah, and we could tell that you were gonna quit, or we just knew that like you were kind of done with us.
Like I think I didn't want to, because like if there was some opportunity, because we were trying to weasel our way into a package at some point, but who's wouldn't want to deal with what we've done?
Nobody.
Yeah, that's why we didn't get anything.
Nobody wanted to fuck with us, and so yeah, and that's when. At the time, I'd started jamming with Ron, and I was just like, okay, well, like, this guy has no idea, like, what sort of a shitstorm he's walking into, so, like, we'll just fucking have him play bass, And then, so that was, like, the end of you and I being in the band together, and rightfully so, dude. I'm surprised. The fact that, like, we had to have a conversation about you leaving the band instead of like you just being like, fuck you, I'm out. Like, it was really surprising. I think really it's just a testament to how nice of a person you are.
Yeah.
Because like, and if it were anyone else, like they like you, I would have got punched in the face and you would have been out of there way sooner because you just had to deal with so much shit. But like,
I just really wanted to be in a touring band. That's what I wanted to do. And
I think you like the music too.
Well, that too. Yeah.
I think you like slapping the bass.
Yeah.
And because if you're in Downtown Brown and you play aggressive slap bass, I mean, there's definitely a place for that.
You don't really get to do that in many bands.
No, because and that's the thing. That's the one thing that the band I've been doing for however many years. It always gives the musicians a chance to be themselves.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times we're like playing the same songs and stuff, but like really everyone who plays in Downtown Brown gets to kind of be their own persona. Ron is definitely Ron, and Harry Bob is definitely Harry Bob.
Yeah.
So, it definitely worked. It works for unique weirdo musicians to insert themselves into the mix. But yeah, I was just really sick, dude. I wish, and I don't know. Did you ever try to confront me about the terrible shit I was doing to myself? Because I remember there was these nights where we'd close out the bar at Alvin's and I would just literally drink and then you would just drive me home. Like, was I fun to hang out with? Because I remember, as much as I was killing myself, we had a lot of good times, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Like, we had a lot of laughs. We you and I have similar tastes in television, movies. Like, how many times did we watch Idiocracy on the road when we got a DVD copy of that?
For sure.
Wonder Shows in fucking, a lot of, I don't know, it was a good time. Besides retrospectively looking back and being like, oh, missed opportunities and stuff, we really were living life hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, not many people can say that in their 20s they were doing exactly what they wanted to do, and they were doing it, like, they were just pretty much giving up everything to do it. Like we all fucking.
Well, yeah, we didn't go to school. There was no
we all
job. We were
pretty
just
much
doing
quit
that.
our jobs. And when we weren't touring, like Don and I were working at the I don't even know when did I start working at the catering company? I didn't have a job for a minute there. I think right when we started touring, I just was kind of a fucking bum for a minute.
Yeah.
Before I got the job at the catering company. I got the job at the catering company in 2007. So you joined in 2005, and we started touring at like around 2006, halfway through 2006. And then, there was, we were living, we were just playing shitloads of shows. We were going really hard. And we were launching fucking cheeseburgers into the audience. I don't know. I look back at all that shit as sick as I was, and as concerned as I am in retrospect about what I was doing with my health. Like we were fucking legendary. We were doing some legendary shit. I remember someone posted a YouTube comment on one of our videos, and it just said, "I'll never forget the band that feeds burgers to the audience."
Well, yeah, we had a 3-person water balloon launcher, and we were firing burgers at people on the burgers tours and stuff.
We had laser beams on our guitars.
Oh, yeah, fucking lasers. Yeah, we had these high-end laser pointers. We're looking at stars so you could, like, see the beam. And we used to play bars where you could still smoke. I mean, we had a fog machine, too, we were traveling with. But, we would just hit lasers during guitar solos.
But we did gigs with Ron Jeremy. We did gigs with Ryan Dunn and Don Vito. And we opened up for Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
All the Vito shows were fun.
Yeah, we played Warped Tour 3 years in a row. Like, we sold, like, there was a lot of young kids that would come to the shows. Like, now it's in hindsight, and a lot of these kids are like, late 20s, 30s or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really think that what you and I did together in the band during that period of time, we shaped a lot of weird kids' lives in one way or another. Like, for example, like we just did this house party, 2 days ago, and there was that girl came, and she's like, the first show I ever saw was at Pirate Studios in suburban Illinois, and it was Downtown Brown.
Yeah, those shows were something else, too.
She told me straight up, she's like, after watching that show, I knew I wanted to be playing bass in a band for the rest of my life. So regardless of whether or not I feel like we did what we set out to do, and that's we flipped fucking wigs, man. We I know it imploded in a very destructive way, but for a minute there, we really were we were making a lot of people have fun.
Yeah, no, I think people definitely had fun at our shows because we could dance to the stuff, and like a lot of the bands at the time, it was just moshing and
it was that like metalcore.
Oh yeah,
emo,
all the karate dancing and stuff.
Yeah, karate dancing. It was definitely like.
Then we wrote the parody song, "The Back on the Team."
Yeah, it was like the scene kids' heyday. Like it was MySpace era.
Yeah.
So we were like the anti-scene kid band. Just a bunch of fat drunk idiots firing cheeseburgers into the audience. And I think at that place and time, we were the antithesis of popular culture, and we did it in a fun way, and we were trolling people, and we were playful, antagonistic, and I think really as far as the destructive tendencies of the band, like the only people we were being really destructive to were ourselves, unless you count like Swisher.
Yeah.
But I feel like the core of the group, which was Don, myself, and you, like it was just a lot of good spirited fun.
Wasn't that a Steven or Greggy saying? He's like, what I always say, if there's a bridge, let's burn it.
Yeah, well, and that's what Swisher was fucking a pro at.
Yeah.
But also, then I said this on the Drown podcast. I was definitely like just too drunk to stop any of it. Yeah. And nor did I care. I kind of I just remember being so fucked up. I like didn't care if anything bad happened. I didn't care if I was alive or dead. So, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people had a good time, but in retrospect, I was not having that good of a time. It was on and off. Yeah. Things, I'm in control now. Man, it's kind of boring. Being sober for 10 plus years, man. It's like, what do I do for fun these days?
Yeah.
But we were able to do it the other day, you know, like in this living room, there's a fucking crazy punk show.
No, it was fucking awesome.
And I'm pushing
cool
40. You know, my birthday, like I turned 39 on February 2nd. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like I'm about to be a fucking 40-year-old man in a year and some change. And but I still get to do all the fun shit that I was doing fucking 20 years ago. I just, you know, there's no retirement plan in punk rock, and that's why I have to start to try to diversify my skill set and see if I can carve some sort of a career out of something creative and fun.
For sure.
Who knows? Maybe this podcast will get legs. But regardless, I'm enjoying the process, you know?
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being a forgiving guy.
Well, we probably didn't talk for like a year or two after I left the band.
Oh,
but then we just talked and it was fun.
Yeah.
Although I was really low actually after I left. I was severely depressed and just like it was what I wanted to do, and it was just like take it away from me and not even in my control.
Well, it had like came and went,
Yeah.
but in like a blink of an eye type of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I remember, I think I was 24 when I got out and did not even realizing how young I was. I could have easily started another band and just hit the road hard. But
Yeah.
I was just kind of, I didn't want to go through that again unless it was the right opportunity. Like I did a bunch of auditions after I got out. I auditioned for Kiss Kiss, this indie rock band in New York.
I remember
Didn't
them.
get that.
Hey, my name is Rob Bates, and I auditioned for Black Flag.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell that story, and then we'll end it. But yeah, but
Okay.
first, before we get out of here, I want to hear this story again.
Yeah, so I was, I had started a business after I got out of DTB where I had invented this thing with these grippy shirts that would like hold on to stuff if you're working in a warehouse. And I was trying to do something with that, and it just like, it was a good idea, but not a great idea. And so it was working. I took it to national trade shows, but I was just getting like frustrated with it not working. I was like, well, fuck this. I want to go on tour again. And so I started just looking on Craigslist in New York, LA, and Austin. And I happened to see a listing for, what was it? Like good band or good situation for the right player. And it was a link to a music page, and it was Greg Ginn and Mike Vallely's band. I was like, oh, fuck, it's Greg Ginn's band. Yeah, why not? And so I sent him an email.
What was that band called?
It's Good for You, I think.
Did they ever put anything out?
They put one album out and did like one tour, but
Okay.
it was basically they were Black Flag. The same rhythm section was going to be for that band. Was
Yeah,
going to
they're
be for
Black
Black
Flag
Flag
now.
So yeah, and they are Black Flag
It's
now.
still Vallely's still singing for
Yeah,
them, right?
But the rhythm section for Good for You was going to be the one for Black Flag.
Okay.
And so I emailed them, and then they actually got back, and he flew me out there, and I went to SST's studio, and I spent a ton of time. I learned their whole album. I'm like, I could do this. And then we get there, and I've never seen anybody smoke so much pot before. He had one of those fucking vaporizers that would just like fill the whole bag, and he would suck that thing down and then do another one. And I had smoked a little bit, but I wasn't huge on it, so I just wanted to not smoke before we jammed the first time, and then the second time I did. But yeah, we went to like this. It was like he owned a furniture thing in like the downtown area of whatever town it was, like Taylor, Texas. And so yeah,
It was like suburban Austin.
No, it was like 30 miles outside of Austin. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
Okay,
but
so it was in the Austin metro area.
it might have even been further out than that.
Okay.
It was like a small town that kind of had looked like a bunch of abandoned storefronts, but looked like he owned one of the storefronts, and that's where the jam room was.
Was that SST?
Well, there was no. It was like SST and then another building that he had. So
So he owned like two storefronts.
I think, I don't know.
Did you see SST?
Yeah, he gave me a Minutemen record when I was there, and yeah, I went into this warehouse that was just piles of like Bad Brains and Minutemen and Black Flag records and all that stuff. Because SST is a functioning business still. They don't put out anything, but they ship all those old albums out.
Yeah,
And,
they're still like selling their back catalog.
Yeah, and
And do they have the rights to all those albums still? Like, are they the ones putting that on streaming services and whatnot?
no idea.
Because I just listened to self-titled Bad Brains this morning. Like, was I giving Greg Ginn Spotify plays?
Potentially, I don't know.
Whoa.
But yeah, there was a recording studio connected to SST, and we hung out there for a little bit. Then we walked over to the furniture store to jam, and we go to jam, and it's just a jam. We're not playing any of these songs. So I spent all that time learning it for nothing. And if I would have known it was a jam, I would have just done that. And so when we're jamming, I was just trying to like be a bass player and just lock in with the drummer, play root notes, not go anything too crazy. And it went okay. It was cool. It was neat to jam with them and whatnot. But then, so we go back and go out to eat like Mexican food and talk about whatever else. And I'm really quiet to myself, and I'm not good at just doing that, especially just come off the plane. I didn't sleep because I was so excited, and I don't think I was able to open up enough to let them get to know me to want to actually join this band. And really, I was asking him more questions about the Minutemen than I was about like fanboying about Black Flag, because I honestly was never really a big Black Flag fan. I get it; it's aggressive and angry, but it was just not for me.
Right.
And but it was just the opportunity was there, so why the fuck not?
Yeah.
And
take it.
yeah, and then we went back and jammed again, and then I smoked with them, and then I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do what I do, and so I started fucking doing a bunch of crazy walking lines and actually playing started playing like slap bass stuff with Greg Ginn and the drummer. Nice. And it was fun though. I just locked in and like just kind of did my thing, and I ended up not getting the gig. The guy from Screeching Weasel got the gig, which I think they wanted to use to help draw on top of everything else, even though they weren't going to have any problems. It's Black Flag's name. Yeah, it's not Black Flag.
Yeah,
but
I mean, he owns the copyright. But they're still doing it. Like I think they.
Yeah, they just did a bunch of dates coming up, and it was a really cool experience. I'm glad I got to do it. I mean, you get to jam with legends. You have to do it, no matter who it is, and even if people don't necessarily have a positive view of Greg Ginn, but he was nothing but nice to me. Paid for my flight. He was nice in person. Bought me a sandwich.
And that's the thing too, is like if people are outside of that bubble where they can comment on somebody, but they don't. Like I've heard nothing but bad things about Greg Ginn this, Greg Ginn that. Greg Ginn owes everybody SST royalties. Greg Ginn's a bad businessman. Greg Ginn's a liar.
Allegedly.
but this is the thing, is like, I don't know, like you actually met the dude and hung out with the guy.
He seemed like a nice old hippie dude. That's kind of the impression I got.
Yeah. And definitely as a guitar player, highly influential on me growing up is when I heard like Rise Above for the first time, when I like bought my first Black Flag album. I got Damaged and I got First 4 Years, and I was listening to these guitar solos, and I had been learning scales, and I had been learning the blues, and I had been learning Metallica riffs and all these like relatively intricate guitar solo type stuff. And I heard Greg Ginn playing. I'm like, okay, that's like not in a key.
Yeah.
It's like this discordant,
it's
dissonant,
definitely a different way to go about playing
it's just
the guitar.
Pretty much like, okay, this dude is just straight up making noise, and it's not in any key. But the thing is the energy and the rawness and his tone, it really captured something in those old recordings. And I just remember being like, oh, okay, so like you literally don't have to be in the lines. And so I'll always have mad props for Greg Ginn. Well, and on top of that, once you read books like Get in the Van or This Band Could Be Your Life, you read books and you realize that like what he was doing was so pioneering.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. I was asking him about like how they were booking shows and like having to find payphones in order to like link up with these people and just book things.
I mean,
through,
it was DIY before DIY.
No, it's
like,
insane.
They paved the way for like hundreds and hundreds of bands to do the same shit. Start their own label, book their own tour. If like, so you have to have respect for the band, regardless of, I don't know the interpersonal workings or any of the drama involved in any of that crap, but dude, what a legendary person to be in the room with. It's kind of like when we got the HR gig. Yeah. And, I had met HR in the past on tour with Fishbone, but very briefly. And he was in the throes of his bipolar thing. Like he was not well mentally. So when I met him, he was like speaking in different accents. He was going from a British accent to an American accent. And he was like hitting on my girlfriend in front of me. And he was like was acting really weird. But when I met him, when we were about to play with him, we had learned all the music without him. And we go to this first rehearsal and we start running HR songs with HR, like in this rehearsal space. And we're like right around Lake Tahoe, California. And I just remember, I mean, and you had to have been feeling the same thing, that moment where you're like, I'm fucking...
Yeah, I definitely said that to myself when I was there.
I'm playing music with fucking HR, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is happening? I remember looking at Phil Warren and just being like, dude, we're playing fucking with HR, dude. So it's one of those things where regardless of whether or not you got the gig, like, what were you going to do? Fucking say no to that?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, well, Greg Ginn, like, you know, fuck what people say, dude. Just go do stuff. Just live your life, man. That's awesome.
No, that would have been a cool one to land, but at the same time,
also, if you would have landed that gig, you would have been a part of like the fucking huge internet backlash.
Oh,
like
yeah,
literally
dude,
everyone and their fucking, especially after Flag started.
Yeah.
Like, not very many people have been very forgiving to Greg Ginn in this version of Black Flag.
No. Well, they put out that record with that terrible art, and it's like, what are you
Who
doing?
sang on that record? Was it
Reyes sang on that record.
Okay, Ron Reyes sang.
Yeah.
Okay, because I haven't even heard any of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. But yeah, well, that's cool. You had that moment, and you got to see. So SST is still based out of Texas.
Yeah, he moved everything there from LA, and
did he say when he did that? How long ago he did that?
I forget. I remember I'd asked him. He said they moved the whole thing on a train because there was like a train line that runs all the way from California to there.
That's how Ken from Reverend Guitars gets all the guitars to NAMM. He puts them all on pallets and they ship it all in a train.
Yeah.
I bet you can do it for cheaper that way.
Probably if you don't care about how long it takes.
Because it probably takes a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Just to get there. But yeah, if you were to like ship giant pallets of stuff on a plane, man, that'd probably be very, very expensive. That's cool though. So you smoke weed with Greg Ginn.
Yes, I did.
And you weren't even much of a smoker.
At that time, I was a little more like when I was in the band, I didn't even touch it, and it would have probably helped me a lot actually.
Well, when you were in Downtown Brown.
Yeah. No, I just always thought of myself as kind of a lazy person, so I thought that would make me even lazier, so I just stayed away from it.
Yeah,
but it just accentuates what you are. Personality traits, and as I've gotten into it, the mental benefits are way better than anything like that, and I actually feel like I'm doing more than I ever have, and now just because of my back and mental stuff, I just pretty much daily really.
Yeah, now you're like the fucking most productive pothead on the face of the planet.
But yeah, I really rarely drink anymore. I don't really binge drink, so it's like that's what I'll do. So.
Drinking is kind of whack, dude. I'm over it. I've been over it. You know, I quit in fucking 2008. So I've been over it. But yeah, you know, we got the stories. We'll always have the stories. And it's cool too to hear your version of stuff because like I try to tell some of these stories, I'm just like, I don't remember half this shit. I was blacked out for a couple of years. Yeah. Because my drinking got progressively worse until like the Warped Tour. It was at its like fever pitch, like 07, 08 is when it was at its complete worst.
Isn't there a picture of you on stage in Cincinnati with like a fifth of Jack and your guts just hanging out?
Yes. Yep. That was Cincinnati. Yeah, because
Miguel was there.
The Eat a Fetus trio showed up. And they were in their wrestling singles.
That EP is so fucking goddamn good.
Yeah, those guys. Shouts out to Chuck and Miggy. Who was the third dude?
I don't know.
Chuck was the drummer, Miguel was the singer, guitar player, and Chuck sometimes sang. And then there was a third guy.
Yeah.
Who was the third guy in the Eat a Fetus trio?
I don't know.
I want to say he wore like a fucking like a helmet, didn't he?
Yeah, because they were both in singlets.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Chuck moved to I think Nashville, and he's like a session drummer and Miggy's like is a world-renowned chef and shit, and he still plays guitar. Yeah. I think he's got a band called Casino Warrior.
Yeah, I've seen it online. Yeah,
but
dude, he was a shredder. He was
dude,
really
dude, those guys like could play really well, and they were funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met a lot of fucking I just remember we were walking around with the bullhorn at the Cincinnati Warped Tour, and he was just terrifying all the children. And I actually remember Haley Williams from Paramore walked by us, and she had her whole security detail, and we were barking at her. We were going like barking at Haley Williams from Paramore, and at one point we were hanging out at the Rocks. Like there was this big fence that went around the perimeter of the venue in Cincinnati, and it was on the river. And we hopped the fence, and we were hanging out on the Rocks, and there was a boat that like was in the river that's like, hey guys, and we're like, hey, and we actually like jumped in the water and we swam and we got in the boat, and next thing we know we were like partying with these weirdos on the boat. And they were giving us pills, and I remember I was taking pills. I didn't even know what was in them, but I was just like eating strange pills from strangers on a boat in the river.
Yeah.
And and then shortly after we're barking at Haley from Paramore, and that was the Cincinnati stop.
Yeah.
I also remember, there was a. You remember when the Black Eyed Peas came out with that album? It was like an 2004 called Elephant, and they had that song "Let's Get Retarded."
Yeah.
Let's get retarded.
Yeah.
So I remember actually saying, like, because back then it wasn't like you could say that word. You could say jump around like a retard.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't get all super freaked out. And so I remember like at that specific Warped Tour in Cincinnati, and Benny will tell you the same story. There was when I said everyone jump up and down like a retard during one of our songs. It was like Got a Potty or something. But then and there was a woman who had a handicapped son that approached me after the gig, and she was just like, she was screaming at me, but I was all drunk, and I was just like, wow, whatever, you know.
Oh, I kind of remember that.
Yeah, but definitely, like, that was just a sign of the times. Like, back then, like, Black Eyed Peas were a huge group. They were a huge group, you know, because Fergie had just joined, then they were, like, just blowing up. Because before they were kind of like a lo-fi indie jazz kind of hip-hop thing. Even though they were on a major label, they didn't have a hit. Yeah. But they started having hits, and it was like 2004, 2005, and they had a song on their album that straight up, let's get retarded, let's get retarded. And I remember it got bought by the NBA, and they changed it to let's get it started, let's get it started. So back then you could say that word, you can't really do it anymore. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not like, oh, remember when you used to have freedom of speech? No, I think like that word, like, it, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing that you can't just go around saying shit's retarded anymore.
I'm trying to think of anything else that might have happened on that little run with the Warped Tour thing I can remember, because I kind of would just stay by the merch booth. I didn't really get into too much trouble on that tour.
Well, I remember Scode came out in Minneapolis. There's one photo that is still on the internet floating around, and I got to look for it. Yeah. And it's me. I'm like 250 pounds, and I'm in basketball shorts and with my shirt off, and then I have the Burger King mask on with the Burger King cape. Yeah. And I'm like spread eagle, and Swisher is on top of me, like simulating sex. And that same show, I was laying on the ground dead in the Burger King outfit.
I remember that.
And then one of the natives guy just wrote the word gay on a piece of paper and just put it like on my sweaty belly. And I remember these kids like came up to me and they were like, let's take a picture with the fat drunken Burger King guy that's laying on the pavement. I was like literally laying on the pavement of Warped Tour, you know? And I remember they got real close to me, and they started taking the photo, and I just grabbed them. I was like, ah! And grabbed them, just grabbed these kids and scared the shit out of them. But we would do stuff like that. People would come up to us and be like, oh, the Burger King. And I'd be like, all drunk, like, smoking cigarettes. The Burger King.
Oh, you were smoking
big,
a lot.
fat Burger King. And so what these kids would do is they'd be like, can we get a picture with you, the king? And I'd be like, yeah, dude. And then so they'd all fucking come close, and it'd be like a group photo. And what I would do is I was 250 pounds at the time. I would let my legs go, and I would just put all of my dead weight on these little fucking Warped Tour kids.
You used to do that to people.
I used to do it all the time. And so pretty much what would happen is like during the photo, I would just I would just pretty much let go of my legs, and these kids would like fall on the ground because this big fat guy's like, just like.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and then I would just be like, ah. It was just fun. It was just fun messing with people. But yeah, you can't. I wouldn't. You know, being sober for 11 plus years, dude, there's no way in a million years that I could do that to a stranger. Yeah. Like, I'm just too aware of my space. I'm too aware of how the words I say and my actions affect people. There's no way I would just, like, put all of my weight on a stranger. But when I was drunk, I used to love that shit. Oh, could I get a hug, bro? Yeah. And then I'd hug him. I love you. Yeah. And then just drop him to the ground.
Or just hang on to him for like.
Yeah, just hang on to him for way too long. And just literally try to make everyone as uncomfortable as I possibly could. Because that was fun back then.
Yeah.
Let's get it started. Black Eyed Peas. Well, I don't know. We've been talking a while. let's go into like, okay, what are you doing now, and what do you want to plug? Like, you just put out a record with your group.
Yeah, a new band, Ellyeahdehd, just put out a record. It's on Spotify, and it'll. We're gonna do a vinyl record eventually, but right now it's out, and it's called Ellyeahdehd, and the band name's spelled all stupid. It's just ELL.
I'll write it on the screen.
DEHD, and there'll be a link to it probably, but
yeah, we'll put a link down. So make sure you check out Rob Bates, aka Harry Bob, bass player of the band Ellyeahdehd, and the fucking record is called Yeah, Dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and the album art's really cool. And I just listened to pretty much the whole record the other night, and it's really eclectic, really weird. And Adam, who's the singer, is a really talented dude. There's a lot of weird shit going on this record. And I just remember I kept stopping and saying, I'm like, this is really weird.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. Like, everybody always says that about their fucking band, but this is hard to explain.
It really is hard to explain. It really goes... It borrows from so many different genres, and it goes so many different places. It
kind of sounds like a compilation, like a bunch of different bands, except for it's all of us.
But the one unifying factor of the record is Adam's voice, and he really is a talented dude, and I think everyone should check out this fucking record, and we're gonna put a link down there. And let's end this shit.
Cool.
But real quick, while I got you on here, I just want to say I've shouted you out on this podcast like 900 times because if it weren't for your persistence, and if it weren't for my girlfriend having the gear, like it just all kind of came together last year, and I had decided I was kind of burnt out on touring that whole lifestyle. I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do as an outlet? I'm still going to make music. I'm still going to tour here and there, but it's like. This podcast has really kind of saved my life, and if it weren't for you being up my ass about it, it probably would have never happened. So thanks, dude.
Yeah, dude.
And thanks for being a friend, and thanks for always believing in me. You know, even when I was a total fucking fat drunk mess. I mean, you wouldn't have been involved in what we were doing if you didn't see something in me.
I would have been long gone.
Like, because
you could do things on stage that most people can't, and that's why I stayed around.
You hear that? I can do things on stage that most people can't. Like what? No, but it's and it. What am I trying to say though? Like throughout the years, it's been nice because Downtown Brown definitely isn't a big band that makes a lot of money. There are people that get involved in it just because they know A, the music's fun, it's intricate, it's fun to play, and B, yeah, it's a good time, it's a good show.
Yeah.
So, it's yeah. But not only that, but just me as a dude. I'm glad you think I'm interesting enough to have a fucking couple microphones. Like I really, honestly, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be doing this shit right now, and I never would have even had the idea to start doing this.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm glad you finally decided to do it.
So thanks for being a persistent guy and a good friend.
Took 7 years, 6 years.
Yeah, well.
But you did it. And
I'm a stubborn
they're coming
dude.
out, and they fucking look good. So.
I'm a stubborn dude, man. Yeah. But the thing is once I start doing it, I'm like, oh, I like this.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you like doing it.
So here we are. Yeah, I'm actually enjoying it because a lot of times with the band stuff, I felt like we liked playing live, but all the other shit, man, that's like, it's all work.
Yeah.
And it's work editing this shit and recording this shit and setting everything up and doing yada yada, but I don't know. I'm enjoying it. It hasn't gotten stale. Like you do music for 20 years and you get kind of burnt out on it.
Oh, for sure.
But like I'm 20 whatever episodes into this, and I'm still excited about it because every single episode is different. We got different guests and we're having different conversations, and I'm learning. I'm learning skills, and I'm learning about myself, and I'm also learning a lot from the people I talk to. It's giving me a lot of perspective on life. You know, everyone has a story, and we can exploit those stories for views, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. It's like, let's get some clicks, baby.
Views.
Yeah, let's fucking get the channel monetized so we can fucking throw Google ads up your ass. I'm joking about it. No, I'm having a good time. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, dude.
So we got Rob Bates here, aka Harry Bob. He goes by Rob these days. But
most days.
But you may have known him 10, 12 years ago as the artist formerly known as Harry Bob.
There you go.
Yeah. I would put that on the thumbnail, but it would take up like so much space. Rob Bates, aka the artist formerly known as Harry Bob. Like the whole thumbnail,
a fucking paragraph.
Yeah, the whole thumbnail is just all text. We'll see. I'll try to come up with something that works.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it. Okay, so hey, this is SUPcast, and we're SUPcasting, and because of Rob Bates here, a.k.a. Harry Bob the artist, formerly known as Harry Bob, we've been SUPcasting, and we will continue to SUPcast, and I hope everyone has a wonderful, and the camera died.
There you go. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Come on, come on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.